Welcome to the WDW News Today podcast, episode 49. We are recording this live because last week was very busy. I'm also flying solo because of that, so no Eric, no Nick. Eric will be back with us next week, maybe Nick. I have to ask him later today. But we will be celebrating 50 episodes next week, so a major milestone. But thank you for watching. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe. And this is going to be a weird show, mainly because I don't know that anyone's ever done one alone. Did Eric do one alone while I was gone, or no? No, he didn't. So this will be the first one anyone's done alone. It's always good when Tom is left alone with his thoughts. Nothing can go wrong at that point. So there's two sections to today's show, essentially. Obviously, over the last week with the announcement of an opening date and the sale of tickets, hotels, packages, etc. for Epic Universe. I want to talk about that in relation to historically how these things have been done in the past, how they're being done now, and generally talk about the discourse between Disney fans and Universal fans and how there's not really two different things, and what's going on in the internet right now doesn't necessarily reflect reality. So I'm going to warn you, a disclaimer at the top of the show, if you are going to be one of those people that right now Universal can do no wrong for you, you're probably not going to like what I have to say, but a lot of it will be, I will try to keep opinion out and use mostly facts to back my case, and historical context, because context is key, and context is king. So that's going to be important on today's show. So we're going to do that in one part. In the other part, I have some questions that our WIGS members have sent in. Of course, our WIGS members usually get to watch this be recorded live before the rest of you get to see it. That's not happening this week, but it happens most weeks. And you could join at patreon.com/WDWNT. Of course, our WIGS members help power everything that happens here at WDWNT, whether you read the news on the website, enjoy our social media content, watch the shows on our multitude of YouTube channels, whether this channel, the Universal Parks News Today, or the WDWNT TV channel. You make all of this go. There's a lot of people and a lot of pieces to move on a daily basis here at WDWNT, and so every little bit helps cover all the major theme parks in the world, essentially. I see I have the live chat on YouTube open, so I will try to look at that and also try to look at the Discord chat at the same time. So I'll bounce back and forth a little bit between the two. Obviously, I have to get to these questions eventually, so I'll scroll up later and do that. But maybe let's mostly, I know the WIGS members are watching. We'll mainly use the YouTube chat for the time being, and then when it's time to do the Ask Tom Anything, we'll jump over to the Discord. That's what we'll do. So anyway. Huge thank you from the UK for always saying how it is. Tom rants are my fave, said Nicola Dyer. Well, thank you, Nicola. Bob Barker's there, and it's Bob Baker. I'm joking. Tom needs serious mental counseling and to grow up and leave Fantasyland. Yes, certainly not also the people watching theme park YouTube content. We're not all in the same boat. Regardless, Tom has a bias. No. So let's begin with the story of Tom Corliss and Universal Orlando. Let's begin with that story. I'm going to tell you all a tale. And the tale begins when Tom is very young and honestly loves going to Universal Studios Florida. Which camera? Should I look at just that camera today since it's just me? I don't know. Is that, yeah, okay, we'll do that then. So our story is going to begin in the early 1990s. From the time it opened, we started going to Universal Studios Florida. And I loved that park. In fact, I would dare say in some cases there were attractions there I loved more than most things at Disney. Because my favorite movies of all time are not Disney movies. My favorite movies of all time are Ghostbusters, Jaws, and Back to the Future. Guess what park had attractions for all three of those things? It was Universal. And so I loved going there as a kid, and I loved going there for a very long time. I loved going there, in fact, until about 1999. Something happened in 1999 that greatly disappointed me and my family, for that matter, and we all simultaneously decided to stop going to Universal. And what happened was Islands of Adventure opened. And I remember going at the opening of Islands of Adventure, they forced us to do something. They forced us to buy a 2-day park hopper ticket. Sound familiar? They forced us to buy a 2-day park hopper ticket. And what actually happened is we went to the new park, Islands of Adventure, starting at probably 8 or 9 a.m., whatever time it opened. I don't remember. And we proceeded to have what I would call a disappointing day because we just didn't like a whole lot in the park. I would say there were a couple of highlights. Triceratops Encounter, still I think one of the best experiences I ever had in a theme park, years ahead of its time. Wonderful attraction. Spider-Man, same thing. Tremendous ride. Saved the day for us. That was that and Triceratops Encounter, the highlights for me. I didn't ride a lot of big, scary roller coasters at the time, so I didn't personally do Hulk or Dueling Dragons that day. My cousin and my father did, and we left that day feeling the same, which was we don't see a lot of reason to come back here. But the problem was we were done with that park by like 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and we're like, well, we have 2 days of tickets. I guess let's go to the other parks. We went to the old park and did all of our favorites, which were mostly still operating at that time. I think Ghostbusters was gone, but Jaws and King Kong, obviously E.T. was still there, and Back to the Future, all still operating. So there's still a lot to enjoy there. I think another big turnoff was, I don't know if that was the first time we went to Twister or not. I don't remember. But I remember doing Twister and again being incredibly disappointed, and also even at a very young age finding comedy in the fact that an attempt was made in the queue to do uneven floors. So they had these big sections of the queue that were kind of raised, and immediately someone realized how bad of an idea that was, and they put like tape lines around them. That's what I remember about Twister. I also remember with Twister going to see the show, it ending, and my cousin and I looking at each other and going, that was it? And then leaving, being very disappointed. I know people love Twister because I remember when Twister closed, a bunch of people showed up, and I was like, okay, folks, like this isn't. I hope we're here ironically because this is not a great attraction, nor is the thing that replaced it. But nonetheless, my big disappointment with Universal was for years starting in the mid-90s for years. I remember going to the preview center for Islands of Adventure in what is now currently the Halloween Horror Nights Tribute Store. That's where they did it. And I remember looking at that and be like, wow, Jurassic Park. We're gonna get real life Jurassic Park. Right? So when I was a young kid, Jurassic Park wasn't out yet. And so my favorite movies, Jaws, Back to the Future, Ghostbusters. Jurassic Park quickly joined those ranks from the first moment I saw it. And I'm sure most of you 90s kids, it was the same. It was the defining movie moment of your life. I think for younger people now, like it's there to equate it to a younger generation, your Avengers Endgame, or what was kind of the thing in between? I don't even know. What was like the other era defining blockbuster movie? Regardless, for the 90s kids, it was Jurassic Park. And so we could not wait for there to be Jurassic Park in a theme park. That was very exciting. I remember we were watching some news show, and I remember they showed the opening of the ride in Hollywood and being insanely jealous and thinking, well, we're not going to Hollywood. I'll never go there. As a kid, you'd think all these places are very far away. And it's just like, well, we go to Florida because that's the one we can go to. You know, think like, oh, it's actually, we could have went. But I remember seeing that, being very excited. And so Islands, you look at that preview center and it's, oh man, I'm finally going to have Jurassic Park. Finally going to get to go to real life Jurassic Park. And it opens. And yeah, the Triceratops encounter was fantastic. And, you know, I love Camp Jurassic. Camp Jurassic is one of the greatest children's areas ever built in any theme park. There is no doubt. I love it. It's fantastic. And Pteranodon Flyer is super fun. Terrible capacity, but super fun. So yeah, I have positive things to say about Universal. And then we're going to get to the negative, which is River Adventure. River Adventure was a disappointment from, what was I, 10? 11. I'm 11 years old, and River Adventure, even at that age, was a tremendous disappointment. Part of it is because Dinosaur opened the year before his Countdown to Extinction. And the dinosaurs in that ride felt real. Like the Carnotaur ran after you. Like they all had really good movement. They looked great. And then you went on the Universal ride, and even kids, it's not a thing that happened with maintenance over time. They looked that bad from the beginning, I assure you. That first dinosaur still didn't start moving until that gate was open and you already saw him, and he's... Well, actually, I could use Gertie as an example, right? Like, it's like this, and you're like going by like, are you going to move? And it's like... And then it goes back to like this position. You're like, that's not natural. Like, that shouldn't be the resting position for the animatronic. It was bad, right? Like, I thought as far as log flumes go, Splash Mountain opened 7 years earlier and was a better log flume ride. I mean, obviously tons of animatronics, a better ride in total. But then the better dinosaur ride, the ride that felt more like a Jurassic Park ride than the Jurassic Park ride, was at Animal Kingdom. And so I was incredibly disappointed. Years of anticipation, and it just felt like it was lame. It was really lame. And look, as time goes on, like I appreciate Islands of Adventure. That entry land, Port of Entry, is a beautiful land. It's very well done. And as you get around the park, the lands kind of get worse and worse as you progress. And there's super cool things. Poseidon, later in life, I think I came to appreciate Poseidon more. Dudley Do-Right's a piece of garbage, but it is a piece of garbage I love to death because I grew up on Rocky and Bullwinkle and Dudley Do-Right, and I love those characters. And I think for the limited budget and the junkiness that ride is, there is some genius, right? When you go up that lift hill and it says scenic overlook, and then it says overlooked scenery, and it's a hole in the wall that looks at exposed show building. That's brilliant. That is exactly the humor of those characters and those shows. So yeah, it's cheap, but it was right. Dudley Do-Right, very fun. Super junky, but very fun. And Popeye, a little bit of the same. Popeye, probably a better quality, but in fairness, Popeye, I think, is the best whitewater rapids raft ride I've ever been on. It is a genre I hate. I think most people don't like them. They're not wildly popular unless it's hot out, generally. And there's none I've ever been on I thought were really good other than Popeye. So again, positive for Universal. So like, there's a lot of good things about IOA. We just really, I think we came in with big expectations and they weren't met, at least when it came to Jurassic Park. And that for us was, I mean, it was the centerpiece. There's a reason it's the middle island out in the back and you see it, you know, it's the focal point when you look across the lagoon because it was meant to be the highlight. And in fact, the highlights ended up being in other places. It ended up being Spider-Man and, you know, Poseidon and Triceratops encounter. Those ended up being the really, really cool things in that park. But then also like the Marvel land outside of Spider-Man was pretty, ooh. I know. I've never liked Hulk. I've always thought it's an uncomfortable ride. I've always been in pain. Even after they rebuilt the whole thing, I still got rattled around. I don't like this ride. Later, I did ride Dueling Dragons, and it was cool. I like Dueling Dragons. Still an exposed, mostly unthemed roller coaster with a really badass queue. Really great queue. And cool lore to it, right? Original fun lore, which we got to see in a haunted house, which was incredible at Horror Nights. Mythos was cool back then. There were definitely cool things, but we just didn't fall in love with it. I think a big part of that was we were turned off the moment we arrived because they forced us to buy a 2-day park hopper. We didn't use the second day. We did not go back. We decided to stay, we had annual passes, so we stayed at Disney. And that's what we did with the rest of that trip. We never went back. And in fact, in all the subsequent trips for many years, I did not return until finally I had some friends that worked at Universal and were like, oh, I get comp tickets. You haven't been in 10 years? We should go. So in 2009, I finally went back to Universal. And it was cool to see some of those things after so long. Obviously, I missed Back to the Future. I didn't get to say goodbye to that. I missed saying goodbye to King Kong, which was sad. It's my mother's favorite ride ever, I think. Other thing I didn't get to say goodbye to that I didn't bring this up. The Fantastic World of, that was the name, right? Fantastic World of Hanna-Barbera. I love that attraction so much. My mother, in fact, so now they have Universal annual passes. She will not go in that building. She refuses. So I've not taken them on Minion Mayhem. It's not good anyway. But because they refused, my mother refuses to go in that building, and rightfully so, because Hanna-Barbera had a lot of heart. Really charming and wonderful. If you've never watched it, and in particular, if you have an affinity for like Scooby-Doo, Flintstones, Jetsons, Wacky Races, like that group of characters, it had so much heart, and it was really, really well done. And so I think there was a period where Universal and Disney felt kind of like they felt neck and neck to me as a kid. And then Islands opened, and I didn't feel that way anymore. I just didn't feel like it, because I think a big part of it was, well, that's the place where they built this park that we didn't really like. And on top of it, we're like, you have to buy 2 days because we want to make sure you still go to the old park. And that happened in 1999, folks. A funny thing happened, or a funny number of things happened between 1999 and when I went back in 2009. The funny thing that happened was Islands of Adventure tanked. It did not work out. A majority of it was blamed on the marketing, because they marketed the entire resort as Universal Escape, and people didn't know what that meant. People seemingly didn't understand there was a second park. I think some people did, and I just think, here's the other thing that happened in 1998 that we have to talk about. Animal Kingdom was not a success either. In fact, only 2 Walt Disney World parks were successes when they opened. And that was, you're not even going to guess the second one probably unless you watch Stage 89. The first was Magic Kingdom, right? And yeah, the first 3 weeks they were slow, but that doesn't count. It's a very short period, 3 weeks. Magic Kingdom took off. By the end of 71, they had hit their attendance goals. Things were going great. And in 89, Disney MGM Studios was beyond what they thought it would get. The attendance was higher than they thought for what was supposed to be a half a day, if even, experience. Those 2 were huge successes. Epcot Center was not. Epcot Center tanked when it opened because no one knew what it was. And they had a hard time convincing people to go to it because I think the stigma was, they built like a World's Fair. And at that point, World's Fairs were passé. They were already... World's Fairs started dying after 1964. That's the last great World's Fair, the New York one, which of course gives you Ford Magic Skyway, It's a Small World, Great Moments of Mr. Lincoln, Carousel of Progress. What gives birth to the modern Disney theme park, and the Disney theme park that is miles beyond other amusement parks, and other theme parks even. Like when Disney pulls away from the industry is World's Fair. It's such an important moment, but that is the last great World's Fair. After that, attendance goes down. They become less culturally relevant. They're just not a thing anymore. So by the time Epcot Center opens, people are just not really interested, which is a shame because obviously they built a tremendous park with attractions that people still lament the loss of today, like really stick with people in a meaningful way. That park didn't take off until 86, and what did it was the combined opening of The Living Seas and Captain EO, which Captain EO had the mass appeal, right? With Michael Jackson and Francis Ford Coppola directing, and George Lucas is involved. That was a big draw. But also Living Seas drew well, too. It was another big addition, so it felt like there were good reasons to go to Epcot Center. Then Animal Kingdom in 98 was a flop because it did not have the impact that anyone thought it was going to. I think Orlando had enjoyed this continued success with adding more parks, right? Magic Kingdom, Epcot, or Magic Kingdom, SeaWorld, Epcot, MGM, Universal, and the bubble had not burst. And it seemed like people wanted more. And so you open Animal Kingdom 98 and you think, well, here's more. And Universal's following right behind with Islands of Adventure. And it turns out that's not the case, is that the people's vacations were about as long as they wanted them to be. And there was a breaking point. And the breaking point came because Animal Kingdom opened, and all Animal Kingdom did was hurt the attendance of Epcot and the studios. And I'm sure I don't know this for a fact. I'd have to do some research. I'm sure it hurt Universal also then. There was a new park and people were like, oh, we'll go see that. And we've seen Epcot, we've seen MGM. And we're not going to not go to Magic Kingdom. We're not going to go to, or as most people just call it, Disney World. We're not going to not go to Disney World. So Animal Kingdom opened and that's what happened. It did not succeed. And so a year later, I don't know what anyone would have expected otherwise when Islands of Adventure opened. We had already passed critical mass. So yeah, that's a problem. And so what happened after that is, obviously 9/11 happened too, but no one was talking about a fifth theme park for Walt Disney World or a third park for Universal in 1999. It wasn't a conversation, and it wasn't even a conversation getting into 2001. And so then 9/11 happened, and then at that point you could forget any conversation. And then obviously we went through that decade, and the recession hit later in the decade, and no one at all was thinking about that because they already had realized, oh, we've reached the point at which there's enough theme parks in Orlando, enough major theme parks. The market will not bear more of them. So those 2000s are a terrible time for Universal. In fact, the only thing that kind of kept them alive was Horror Nights. The continued success annually of Horror Nights kept them in business. Of course, they weren't, even owned really by Universal. They were owned by Blackstone for a number of those years. But Blackstone, to their credit, are the ones that sealed the Harry Potter deal after Disney and J.K. Rowling could not reach an agreement. And obviously, that changes things for Universal totally. We're not talking about what we're talking about right now if it's not for Harry Potter, because it's it's the golden egg. It saved them and made them relevant again after over 10 years of irrelevancy. So that's the story through those years. I went back in 2009 and I had a good time. Don't get me wrong. Universal's a fun time. I like things at Universal, but there was never a comparison, right? At that point, Universal was run down and beat up and dingy. And yeah, for the original Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Hogsmeade, there are Disney parallels for sure in the atmospheric entertainment, the quality of the set designs, of the scenic design. The area is beautiful. It's immersive. The queue for Forbidden Journey, and even Forbidden Journey was a ride system that had not been done. Kook Arms existed, but no one had done this before. It was revolutionary. Say what you want about, and I certainly will be the first to tell you I don't think it's the best ride system, and I don't think, it's the most accommodating for everybody. But it undoubtedly changed the game, and it was a huge success, and it was innovative and different and new and exciting, and it worked. And it gave them life again. And so right away they're like, oh, we got to do more Harry Potter. And you can't argue again, Diagon Alley. Scenically gorgeous, beautiful. I think an even better area to walk around and shop and dine and take an atmosphere. And Celestina Warbeck is one of my favorite entertainment acts in any theme park ever. It's really, I don't even like Harry Potter. I actually hate Harry Potter, to be honest. And I still cannot help but walk into that land and be like, I want to walk around and have a butterbeer and watch Celestina Warbeck and the Banshees, and I'm going to have a good time. There's no doubt. But the problem is, I go to Universal and there's just a handful of things I want to do, really. That's the problem. So outside of Horror Nights, even though I have an annual pass, I probably only go a couple other times a year, maybe every other month for a couple hours, maybe. And it'll be okay, I'm going to go into Diagon and get a butterbeer and watch Celestina, and I'll ride Men in Black. That's pretty fun. And what else do I even do in that park? Just did Rip Ride Rocket the other night. I cannot wait for that to close. What a piece of garbage from day one. From day one, and still I feel back pain on that ride I've never felt in my life doing anything else. Lifting 100-pound bins, I've never felt back pain like riding Rip Ride Rocket. We have a super chat. J5 Studios super chat. Since we're live, you could do this. I don't understand why Universal won't make lands and attractions for their classic movies anymore, like Jaws, Back to the Future, and Ghostbusters. Disney make lands and rides for movies that are 40-plus years old. Why won't Universal? That is an excellent point, and I think that is one of the problems I have with them. Is, they got rid of Jaws. I get it was a lot of room, but to not have Jaws with prominence other than a photo op that was moved to San Francisco felt weird. Like to sell so much Back to the Future merchandise and yet have nothing for it other than a train and a car we moved, into a desolate area by animal actors. They have power in their older properties, and I don't understand why they don't see that. But the good news is, as we're recording this just a few days ago, actually I think it was yesterday, for those Universal Fan Nights in Hollywood coming up next year, they've announced that you're going to be able to walk through the actual Hill Valley from 1955, the real set was. It burnt, the original burned down, the old original courthouse. But in Hollywood, you're going to be able to walk through the original set, and it's going to be dressed like it's 1955 Hill Valley. So someone gets it. Like, I think they kind of realize that there's money there. And so we can only hope, man, you've got some expansion plots in Epic Universe. You want to win me over? Back to the Future is a genius idea, and people will show up in droves, man. And I would say, make a wild guess here, right? Harry Potter has happened, right? They've existed. You're building a third land, and I'm sure people will enjoy the third land. But it's stale, right? I think there are so many people in the world that love Back to the Future that you would have so many bookings and continuous bookings for a Back to the Future land at Epic. So many people would be like, I gotta come see this. People of an age where they have disposable income. And I think it's gonna happen too. I think Pokemon's another one where it's inevitable. It's gonna make them a ton of money. I will certainly be first in line for Pokemon. The Nintendo deal, I always said for years that that is such a coup, whoever will ever talk Nintendo into doing a major theme park land. And Universal did it. And part of it was because they were making the movies with them. But yeah. Obviously, also to end cap the brief history, Blackstone, eventually Comcast, Universal, NBC Universal, and eventually Comcast buy out Blackstone and take control of the parks back. And that's why you've seen continued investments in them. Not all good, right? Some of those are Fast and the Furious supercharged, and some of those are Jimmy Fallon. And then on the other hand, some of them are Hagrid's and some of them are Velocicoaster, which are two very good roller coasters. Not necessarily, landmark immersive experiences, but two very, very good roller coasters. Anyway. So I want to talk about Epic. This has been a long time coming. I know. So here's the thing I want to say is Disney is obviously held to a different standard than Universal, and rightfully so. Universal has a rich movie making history, which even now they don't really live up to. They very rarely, they don't pump out hits the way they used to at that studio, is what I will say. But Disney has an incredible history that is not just their cinema, it's also their parks. There is a legacy company-wide of great customer service, incredible immersive experiences, spending copious amounts of money to make things that the world has never seen before. And so there comes this incredible reputation the Disney brand holds that no matter how many times the company goes through these dark periods, whether it's the end of the Eisner era or the Bob Chapek years or whatever, the brand remains strong because it's Disney. That name will always hold power, undoubtedly. And sometimes to our anger, right? Like through those bad times, especially for me through the Bob Chapek era, through those bad times, it was incredibly infuriating to see continued success when we knew the product was diminished greatly. And honestly, we know we're still seeing the impacts of that. I think park maintenance is still rough. We're starting to see smarter investments in the pipeline. We're starting to see more entertainment back in the parks, right? We've seen Animal Kingdom reinstitute 2 acts, and Hollywood Studios is adding 3 brand new entertainment acts for day guests this holiday season, which is a thing I never thought I'd get to say again. How those aren't even Jollywood things. They're just for you, the day guest, even if you didn't buy an add-on ticket, which is very unlike the previous company. So we're starting to see things turn around, but there's a reputation there, right? And Universal hasn't had that reputation because A, they never reached it, and B, they went through an even darker period, I would say, where they were culturally irrelevant for the most part until Potter came along. And now people have discovered the parks, whether it's from Harry Potter or the incredible success that Horror Nights has experienced, which I will tell you, I love Horror Nights. I think they're untouchable in that space. No one can beat Universal at the Haunt event. It's become, although it's at that point where it's become a machine, and now you can see the corporate greed sort of seeping in, where there's, the scare zones aren't quite as detailed and as robust as they used to be, and you could see like the houses aren't necessarily as innovative as they used to be, but it's still a really great event. It hasn't reached that point yet, but you could see like we got to the top of the hill, and now we're like about right here, where it's like the event is huge, it's a giant success. Like the 10 houses could all be The Walking Dead, and the same amount of people would show up. The IPs are irrelevant at this point because people love the event so much. And rightfully so. Like, the team does a great job, but we're starting to see like the corporate impact. Like, the event is a little less gory than it used to be. The scare zones are a little less good. The houses are a little less innovative. There's a little less entertainment, right? There's no Lagoon show. There's no secondary show. There's just the one stage show in Nightmare Fuel. And it is nice they have the Death Eaters in Diagon, but otherwise a pretty light event show-wise. Not that the Death Eaters are really a show, but you get the idea. But yeah, there isn't that reputation. So now what's funny is the last couple of years there's been this narrative that Universal is quote-unquote catching up. And don't get me wrong, Universal had a good chance to catch up. I think when they saw the weakness in Disney, it was a real opportunity to invest boldly and actually take a run at them. I don't know that they're going to get that opportunity now. I think a couple of things went wrong. I think number one, Nintendo was not all it could be. Again, they built a land that was gorgeous, beautiful, a really nice representation of the Super Mario franchise. But just operationally doesn't work. They didn't build enough capacity into it, so people are waiting 30 minutes to an hour to tap a block. That doesn't work. That's not capacity. You didn't nail that. They built a ride that for most guests is disappointing, which is a shame because I think if they had been allowed to not build an interactive Mario Kart ride, they really, like scenic design, the queue for Mario Kart is top 10 all time for me. No doubt. They did a gorgeous job. The sets in the ride are beautiful. They're really great. The ride itself is not fun. It's another one of these cases where you have a franchise and there are expectations of what the ride will be, and you did not give people what they wanted. I think people were like, Mario Kart, all right, we're going to race and we're going to throw things at people. And you kind of don't race because it's slow. You don't actually control the car. It's just kind of like a interactive element that you play along with as the ride happens. And the AR doesn't look. Whether it's the Spider-Man ride or the AR thing, I don't think worked out. I don't think they found the right uses for it in a theme park. I think it was a fad, and we saw it, and we're like, this is going to change everything. We'll be able to do these amazing things, and it just wasn't there, right? Well, Spider-Man didn't even really do it, right? Spider-Man's just kind of 3D, but the augmented reality I think they were going to do it originally, and then they didn't. And then with Mario Kart, it became like it's the whole focal point of this, and it's an uncomfortable headset, and it ruins your vision of the sets. Like, you can't even see the ride. It's like trying to watch the ride through a Virtual Boy. Kids, look it up. Billy, you know what a Virtual Boy is?
Of course I do.
You do, okay. It's before you were born, but you know, that's good. It was very bad. We didn't know what we were doing. So yeah, I think like Nintendo was a huge opportunity for them, and the ball was dropped. The Yoshi ride is terrible. I remember taking my mother on it the first time in Japan, and we get to the end, and she's like, "That's not the end, is it?" I go, "Yeah, it's over. It's incredibly short. There's not much to look at there. The quality of the one interior show scene is what I would call a really, really nice store window. They're not animatronics. It's not impressive or complicated. It's really slow. It's a prohibitive, same as Secret Life of Pets in Hollywood. It is a prohibitive restraint system for no reason. An incredibly slow moving ride just so the lawyers can make sure you don't jump out. made the world's most restrictive ride restraint system that's going to keep so many people from seeing that and Secret Life of Pets, which is a really solid dark ride, by the way. But again, it's that 50-50, right? I think Universal just so it flip-flops so much where it's like, yeah, we build amazing roller coasters, but the other stuff's just kind of, the other stuff's just there, right? And they ruined the tour in Hollywood. That Fast and Furious there, if you think it's bad as a standalone ride, it's even worse as the finale to the most prolific studio tour in the world. It is a awful, awful finale to that thing. Donkey Kong may be great. Still not open in Japan. Was supposed to open in the spring. Still not open, which is going to lead us to Epic Universe because what doesn't make sense to me is how we expect that this park is going to open with everything on time on May 22nd when one of the rides in this park can't be opened on time in Japan. And not only not opened on time, it was supposed to open 7 months ago for soft openings, and we still don't have a date. It's now the end of October. We don't have a date for this thing. So one of two things has happened. Either they still can't get it to pass the stress test, or they're holding it off and at this point are like, I guess it'll debut at Epic, which seems unlikely to me because the deal, as far as I know it, with Nintendo and Miyamoto is the attractions have to open first in Japan because that is the home of Nintendo. It's no surprise. That's where they want these things to open first. That's where Super Nintendo World open first. That's where Donkey Kong will open first. That's where Pokemon will open first. It's where everything, in theory, will open first. So I don't want to jinx Epic Universe, but am I supposed to believe it's going to pass said stress test in Florida when it hasn't been able to pass it in Japan? I don't know that I believe that. That seems unlikely. More power to them if they get it, but I just don't see that happening. On the flip side of all that is, are we to suspect all the other rides are as far along? So the other thing with the stress test, talking about the stress test. The stress test, to my knowledge, was instituted because of how bad Hagrid's went. This is the other Universal problem, is Velocicoaster, to its credit, and worked on time. That happened. The rest, not so much. If we want to go back to number one, Forbidden Journey in 2010, the thing did not work. It was down for hours every day. It was a nightmare. A total disaster. Capacity-wise, they had problems. Guests didn't fit in the ride because it required the 3 clicks, and they had to redesign they had to essentially redesign the restraint system. They eventually fixed it. And eventually the ride worked consistently. It took a long time. It took years, but it got there. Even worse was when they committed to a date for Escape from Gringotts. Escape from Gringotts, they committed to a date, and they could not operate the ride with more than one vehicle out on the track. That is considerably lower than the capacity it's supposed to have. Also, on the road to that, very famous story, I'm sure if you've been on it, you know, towards the end of the ride, there's a part where you were in a sort of projection dome area with Voldemort and Bellatrix. And sorry, I'm not the biggest Harry Potter fan, so it may take me a moment to come up with these names. And the dragon and everything, and you get chained to the dragon and you get flown out of the scene. It's kind of an over-designed scene because, I don't know if you know this, but that little piece of screen that moves away is on a Kuka arm because Universal has the exclusive right to use that for ride technology. And so a Kuka arm takes that and does this whole like crazy move where it pulls the screen out of the way of the ride vehicle. That didn't happen one time before the ride opened, and the vehicle flew into the screen, and that delayed them a bit. But then beyond that, the ride system was not handling, it was just shutting down if more than one train was on the track. And so people were waiting insane amounts of time for Gringotts, and it took a long time. It took years to get that ride up to the full theoretical capacity. It was a disaster. And then we forward to Hagrid's. Guess what happened at Hagrid's? More of the same. where the ride was clearly not ready for its opening. Universal used a 9-hour wait or whatever it was as a barometer for success. And the only thing I've ever agreed with Bob Chapek on was when he said we don't use 9-hour wait times as a barometer for our success. I'm paraphrasing, but he said something of the like in response to the response Hagrid's had gotten. And that's true because you build things for people to actually see them. Right? And I'm not saying every Disney ride built has not had its problems. Lord knows Tiana's Bayou Adventure had months of problems this year and opened before it was ready. That absolutely happened. There is no doubt. Rise of the Resistance had a lot of problems and was opened before it was ready. A poor mistake. But Disney was skewered for those because it's Disney. Even yesterday, I saw people, prominent personalities, influencers, whatever you want to call these people, in our community, because Tiana went down a couple times at Disneyland yesterday on the first day of its Magic Key previews. And I saw one prominent influencer was like, Tiana's down again. In other news, Epic Universe tickets go on sale tomorrow. All right, well, yeah, that makes no sense, but okay. The ride is in previews, and it went down. It's a preview period, and it happens. But it won't take years, right? Like Tiana in Florida is already doing much better. With Hagrid's and Gringotts, we're talking about years, right? And Kong, I remember, if we want to get out of the Harry Potter bubble, there's several other Universal rides that come to mind. Kong had problems at the beginning that lasted a long time. It has problems now. I don't know. Have they even are they running the outdoor portion of Kong still, or is that just gone forever? But again, if that happened at Disney, if a portion of a ride vanished for years at Disney, it would be like the Yeti where it's brought up every 5 minutes. I haven't heard a human bring up missing scenes at Kong or the missing scare actors from the queue that they cut away. Because they're not held to the same standard, and they're not being held to the same standard now. And the greatest example I have of that is this Epic Universe ticket launch. Because if Disney had done any launch in the way that this was being done, we would be doing multiple podcasts and multiple news shows, and everyone would just be going on and on and on about how Disney is cheating their guests by forcing them to buy multi-day tickets or packages or multiple nights of hotel if they want to go to a park that's new or go to something that's new, right? So let me share my booking experience this morning. This morning they put on sale multi-day tickets that include Epic Universe, not multi-day tickets to Epic Universe, multi-day tickets that include Epic Universe. They also put on sale packages that include a day at Epic Universe. They also put on sale hotels. They put on sale the one new hotel that's in the park, which is the Helios Grand Hotel. And in order to stay there on the opening weekend, you had to book more than one night. They wouldn't let you book less than 2 nights. That was the minimum number of nights you can book to get the opening weekend of that hotel. Coming on top of the only way you can get into the park that hotel is connected to and inside of was to buy multi-day tickets that include 2 parks you have been to that won't have a whole lot new for you to see come next year. Unless you want to talk about the half-ass overlay of the kids zone, which, yeah, I guess that's a thing. The parade that barely has moving parts to it and still looks unfinished, and I think still is technically unfinished. The new nighttime show that's not even running regularly, that's on hiatus already. Should I keep going? And Islands of Adventure that is diminished in capacity. They closed Poseidon's Fury. What did they close Poseidon's Fury for? Money. Not to put something new there, because guess what? And I know some fanboy's going to come into the chat ranting and raving, Zelda's going to go there. Is it going there now? The last I looked at that building, they still have the lighting on, the river's still flowing, half the sign's there because they only wanted to pay to remove the top portion of the sign. That to me indicates you have no plans right now. So you just closed that because Oh, it's expensive to maintain, and it has live cast in it. Yeah, multi-billion-dollar corporations that don't want to pay a few dollars to some cast members who live spiel in an attraction. Yeah, they're totally different from Disney. They're catching up. Let me tell you a sad fact is that they are one in the same. No one's catching up to either. It's a race to the bottom is what it is. It is a race to the bottom with very little innovation, with very little spending. There are people on Twitter who are ranting and raving about Epic Universe being it's going to be the greatest theme park ever built. Not in a million years. There's an in-park hotel, and people are telling me this is going to change the game. I go look at the model. I finally went to see the model of this park at City Walk like a week ago. And if I am a schlub in a 2-bedroom apartment in Orlando, if I can stand at that model and see all of your sightline problems and all the visual intrusion issues from the hotel, looking in, looking out, wherever in that park, if I, the schlub, can look at your theme park model and see all the problems, then you know they exist and you don't care about them, is what that means. And the reason I can sit here and confidently tell you they don't care about them is because I have seen them not care about them. Go to Universal Japan and go look at the sight lines in that park. And you're sitting in Waterworld, and at the top of Waterworld, I'm watching gold coins rotate. From the entrance Super Nintendo World, I'm hearing Jaws explode. From Hogsmeade, looking across the lake at Hogwarts, I'd look left and there are pyramids and a green hill from a cartoon. That tells me no one cares. I go to Universal Hollywood and I step into Super Nintendo World and I look the opposite way out, and there's Jurassic World staring at me from the Mario Kart queue. There's the entire outside world, and what kills me is I'm looking at it and I can see, like, okay, I understand there are natural mountains outside of Super Nintendo World in Hollywood. I'm not being unreasonable. I'm not saying you got to block those out. What I'm saying is I can see that an extra 5 to 10 feet of the fake berm you built with these hills from the background of Super Mario, an extra 10 feet of that would have blocked my view of Jurassic World. So it was doable. It wasn't out of reach. It wasn't something that couldn't be done. We just got lazy, right? And we see this laziness, whether it's, you want to talk about the show building for Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. You want to talk about the sightlines for Tron from Storybook Circus. It is an industry-wide major theme park problem is we don't care about sightlines anymore. And I will tell you, there are rooms at the Grand Helios that you go look at that model and tell me I'm wrong. Go look where all the windows face in Helios Grand, and tell me there are not rooms that are just looking at the back of those low-level rooms that are just pointed at either the city of Orlando, which is probably a better view, or the ones that have partial city of Orlando and partial the back of Harry Potter France in them, and tell me that is the greatest in-park hotel ever built. There are 2 times in-park hotels were built where money was no object and they were done perfectly. The first was the first time it was ever done in 1992 at Disneyland Paris. That hotel is gorgeous. It fits Main Street. You don't see it from anywhere you're not supposed to, and the views from in it are exquisite, and you don't really see show buildings and things you're not supposed to from in there. The second time, when it was done to the greatest effect, to a level that I believe, sadly, in my life, I will never see again, is Hotel Miracosta at Tokyo Disney Sea. There are parts of that building that aren't even real. There are parts of that building that there's no rooms in them. There's nothing really in them. They're just there to create the berm that connects the hotel to the park and makes it seamless. So when you are in Porto Paradiso, Mediterranean Harbor, whatever you want to call it, there are moments you get lost in there and you're like, the outside world doesn't exist. You are really in Italy. You are there. You go to board those Venetian gondolas and you can't tell where the hotel begins and the park ends. You have no idea. It's flawless. And there are no views from the hotel rooms in that hotel that are not meant for you to see. They're all gorgeous. The views into that park do not break the immersion of said park. And it's been done since. I've said it a million times, the Shanghai Disneyland Hotel, when I stayed there, I hated that view across the lake into the park because all you saw were these exposed show buildings. And I was like, the immersion is broken. The immersion is broken in a way that, think about it, even Magic Kingdom doesn't do it. The view of the Magic Kingdom from said hotels, the Contemporary, you definitely see some show buildings, but you're on the Tomorrowland side. You're where it feels like you're supposed to be. It feels right. And then from across the lagoon, whether you're at the Grand Floridian or the Polynesian, the TTC, wherever you are, you see a magical kingdom. You see the spires of a castle. You see the peaks of Space and Splash Mountain or Tiana's Bayou Adventure and Big Thunder. You see things that transport you to another place, that you have entered a world of make-believe. And in a world where the art form has been done to its fullest before, I cannot sign off on opinions where people are ranting and raving and telling me that I'm wrong and that this is the peak of this industry, because it ain't. It ain't the peak, because the peak, you can go fact check for yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. Save that money, put it away, go to France, go to Tokyo, and go see what's meant to be. Go see what's done in the case of the first park in Paris and the second park in Japan, and see what this art form is supposed to look like when there are no inhibitions. And if there are, they are realistic ones where budget still allows for these creative people to make the best product possible. That's the bottom line. I am not going to live in a world where Epic Universe is considered the peak of this industry when it still has exposed steel roller coasters, right? That whole right side of that park is exposed steel roller coasters. With Starlight Racer, Starfall Race, I forgot what they had to change the name to for legal, but yeah, that'll be super fun. They build fun roller coasters. They'll be great. Fun roller coasters also exist at Cedar Point. So that's not what Disney and Universal... If Universal is in the league of Disney, then competing with Cedar Point is not the goal. Then the goal is to compete with Disney and to build things that are fully immersive, roller coasters that tell a story from start to finish and do not, ruin sight lines and impede on the story being told. All right, and look, Disney's been guilty in recent years. Tron is not my favorite. That big, ugly show building, I hate that building. But it exists. It's there, and it is what it is. And it's just as guilty as the right side of this park will be with How to Train Your Dragon. Someone on X or Twitter wrote, I don't know if this guy is a troll or if this guy is really this out there. But there's an individual on X he keeps posting these things about how Epic's going to be the greatest thing ever. One of the things he wrote was they show the outdoor coaster for How to Train Your Dragon, and it's, imagine being a kid and you ride this coaster and it dips under a bridge through mist and fire. And all I could think was, I've been on Cedar Point and Knott's Berry Farm and places like that. I've been on roller coasters that do that. That's not an elevation of the art form. That's not something new. Hagrid's, Hagrid's has exposed track, but at the same time, I think Hagrid's tells a really good story. It's really hidden back there, so it doesn't impede on views elsewhere. And it's really masterfully done for what it is. So Hagrid's is the standard of the story coaster in many ways. They did a great job. And then this How to Train Your Dragon and the Starlight Racers things they're the opposite. They're not. Universal's done better in the last 5 years. This is supposed to be the elevation of the art form. What are, pardon my French, what are people smoking? Look, there are things in Epic Universe that are going to be fantastic and I think will change the game. I will say that. I think the How to Train Your Dragon stage show will be phenomenal. The reviews from Beijing are great. It's going to be great, undoubtedly. I think Donkey Kong will be great when it works. When it finally gets running, I think that'll be a really fun, and I think like Hagrid's, it'll be Hagrid's level immersive story coaster, which I love. I need them to give me a good Nintendo ride. I've had 2 flops. I need Universal, not because I like Universal, but because I love Nintendo. I need Universal to pull through like they did with Hagrid's with Donkey Kong. I need them to do that. I need that. And I need that ahead of Pokemon because I need Pokemon to be great. Because if Pokemon's just Spider-Man, I'm going to be sad. I'm going to be very sad. And I think the Monsters Kuka ride will be fantastic. And I think the Ministry of Magic ride, because it's been something that's been held on the shelf for a long time, will also be fantastic. But that's kind of the story here. The story here is it's a lot of things that Universal stalled just to put in another park while not really necessarily increasing the capacity of the 2 existing parks, which are the ones they're forcing you to buy admission to today if you want to spend a day in Epic Universe, right? The Ministry of Magic ride was drawn up to replace the Fear Factor stage in Universal Studios Florida. And why was it decided against? Well, because we need stuff to put in the new park. And what's currently operating in that space? Well, at Horror Nights, you get to see a show there, and the rest of the year, you get nothing. No added capacity. You just get less. Super Nintendo World was supposed to go in Universal Studios Florida. It was supposed to go where Kids Zone is, in that general area. And instead it was, oh, wait, no, we got to have a new park. We need to sell admission to this new park. Let's put Nintendo there. Okay. And what's been put in that place? Well, Kids Zone got a coat of paint. So there's a coaster that's still there. There's a stage show that's still there. Like no added capacity, just a fresh coat of paint. And that's the repeating story with Universal. And if Disney does that, we're livid. Instead, Disney is actually coming off of this expo doing, in some cases, the right thing. Like, don't get me wrong, Epcot still needs a lot of help, and we're ignoring it now because we've spent a lot on it, and we're just going to leave it limping as is. But at the same time, I see them addressing a lot of issues. The Magic Kingdom does not have enough to do, and so we're going to replace 2 rides with 2 rides that will have greater capacity and handle more guests a day because they'll be in greater demand. And then we're also going to expand beyond the back of the park to add 2 more rides on top of that. That's going to help big time. Hollywood Studios, we're going to take some big dead space and we're going to build a roller coaster in it. That's going to help big time. Now, Animal Kingdom, the opposite side of that is you have some underperforming stuff that already exists. You're not going to add capacity to that park. But you will, in fact, add capacity because Primeval World is dead and it's time to put something in that spot. I'm sure the carousel will draw better than Triceratops Spin. And, as much as it's going to hurt everybody listening and myself, Indiana Jones is going to draw better than Dinosaur. There is no doubt. People don't know what Dinosaur is. They have no idea. They walk up to the front of that ride and they have no idea what it is. Is this a roller coaster? Does it go upside down? It's a Jeep ride in the dark. But is it a roller coaster? It's a Jeep ride in the dark. That people still don't have any idea. They have no idea. But that's the right call. The right call is not to build a 5th park. So the people yelling that the 5th park was the solution to this are just insanely wrong. The parks that exist need to be expanded on and grown out, and in many cases refurbished still. Like there's still a lot to be fixed, from Figment to Spaceship Earth to the center of Epcot, which is a nightmare at the moment. Those lights and that horrid shaped planter. There are a lot of problems to fix there, but I generally see Disney heading in the right direction with what's been announced, with the entertainment changes, with the rolling back of some things like the paid parking at resort hotels. Universal catching up. I just stayed at Cabana Bay last week. Guess what I got charged for? Parking. Don't get me wrong. I love Cabana Bay. Cabana Bay, one of my favorite hotels on earth. Phenomenal. Bayliner Diner, man. Do not sleep on the Bayliner Diner, one of the best counter service restaurants in the theme park world. Bowling Alley is a fantastic time. The drinks are real fun there. Good time. The pool, the lazy river, the rooms. Cabana Bay is, I'd rather go to Cabana Bay than the rest of Universal. I love Cabana Bay. The proximity of Volcano Bay. It's a good time. Love Cabana Bay. I'll try to even out some of my Universal hatred with some love here. But had the best time there last week. Also had good company to share with, but neither here nor there. But talking about Epic, again, that's the thing. If Disney had done that instead of spend money on the 4 existing parks and built a 5th park right now, I think people would have been merciless. But the thing people would have been the most merciless about would have been the necessities in order to book access to the new park. So again, as of today, they did first access to people buying vacation packages or multi-day tickets. The parameters of the multi-day tickets was a minimum of 3 days where you must have days at Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios Florida. And then you can have 1 day at Epic Universe. If Disney had done that, again, the discourse would have lasted for days and weeks and months. And people just complaining and complaining and complaining. With Epic, it's the opposite, where there's all this optimism and excitement. And I don't understand why we are bold enough to say Universal is catching up, but not bold enough to hold them accountable in the same way we hold Disney. Those two have to be the same. If you're going to put Universal up here with Disney, then all of the same criticisms must apply, whether they are maintenance, whether they are nickel and diming guests, whatever the case may be. The same critique must be applied, or you are showing favoritism. That's not an opinion, that's a fact. Tell me when I'm lying. Tell me when something I've said here is an opinion, and I'd be happy to have that discussion with you. But that's insane, to have to buy a 3-day ticket to go to the park. And yes, I know on Thursday they will sell pass holders in some limited supply single-day tickets to Epic. It's still, and then, but the ultimate kicker is at the end where it's like, we just want to see how much we can milk out of you. So, we'll tell you at a later date about regular single-day tickets and annual passes and express and VIP tours. We'll tell you about those at a later date after we've sold enough of this stuff we want to sell you first, which will wring a little extra money out of you. And on top of that, a brand new hotel where you were forced to book more than 1 night for the opening days. You had to book a minimum of 2 nights to stay in the hotel. What Disney hotel requires a minimum of more than a night to stay there? None that I know of. Seems like a different standard to me. Billy, have you been watching the chat? Is there anything in the chat we should be aware of at this point?
People arguing.
Oh, are they? Then I got to get in. Gives people a chance to see Epic. You know what else would give people a chance to see Epic? Building more rides in it. You know how you can handle more people? If you build more than 12 attractions. Let me put that in context for you once again with fact. Fantasy Springs opened in June. There are 4 full-fledged rides. Rides, not stage shows, not water features that kids can run in. 4 rides in that land that opened in an existing park. That is 1/3 of the attractions. 1/3 of the attractions. We're not even getting into quality. We're not getting into capacity. We're not getting into any of that. But just 1/3 of the attraction count for an entirely new theme park. It gives people a chance. People are going to have a chance. People are going to have a chance. If you sold single-day tickets, people would have had a chance. This doesn't give more people a chance. It gives Universal more money. And if you are naive enough to believe this is done for your benefit, I want whatever you're smoking. Pass it down, please. Because I want to live in that kind of blissful ignorance the rest of my existence so I can stop caring at the level I care about this industry. I would love nothing better than to walk into things, wide-eyed and excited without that tinge of knowing the truth behind decisions. And maybe that makes me wrong. Maybe it's wrong that I walk in knowing that I've been cheated in some way. And maybe the rest of the world doesn't and they don't care. But I think they do. I think enough of the world talks about when Disney raises ticket prices and when things like this happen, that means people do care when they're getting nickel and dimed, and the general public in the age of the internet knows it. Gives people a chance. That is some grade A BS you are serving with no factual backing whatsoever. Now, you want to talk about the hotel thing. It is a smallish hotel, and there does seem to be very legit demand for that. And it's not something everyone can experience. But the ways you control that are very simple. There's one way to control that is time-tested along the hotel industry, which has existed for a very long time beyond theme parks. Pricing. If your hotel price is too reasonable and demand is too high, you are going to sell out quickly. The idea is you want your price to meet demand in a way that it is still, people still feel right paying the price, but also it keeps out some people, it prices some people out of the hotel essentially, right? But that's why you have hotel options. That's why tiers of hotels exist, right? That's why Disney has deluxe, moderate, and value. There's something for everybody there. And when you build a nice, super fancy hotel, no one should expect you to charge value room prices. I don't expect that. And I don't think you're evil for doing that. I don't think it makes you evil for building nicer hotels. And at the same time, they are building two very value-oriented hotels down the street in the Stella hotels, right? So I don't have a problem with that. I don't think they're wrong for doing that. But that's how you control it. Not by having night stay requirements. Just price it higher. Like just price it higher. And people are saying on the discourse on the internet, it's very reasonably priced. I mean, the verdict will be out. We'll see how the rooms are and what the benefits actually end up being. I've booked a hotel with no idea what the express benefit is, or if there is one. I have no idea. I have no idea what I'm getting at Helios Grand, because they just want to get the money squeezed out, and then they'll worry about, and then it's like, well, then we'll worry about what the value is to the guest. This right now is get money rolling in before the park opens. Start showing financial gains on what we've spent, because that's the game in corporate America. It's the game they both play. Neither one is innocent of it. That's how it works. It's how DVC works. They like building Disney Vacation Club hotels because the money gets there quicker. The hotel is paid off faster. There's no secret to that. And they're just as guilty with that. But if they're just as guilty, then Universal can't be innocent. That's the point I'm making, is I don't care if people want to say they like Universal. I don't care if people want to say they love Universal. I don't care if people say they like Universal better. That's fine. But to outright claim that they are different beasts, to claim that one cares more about their pass holders or more about their guests or whatever, that's like, if I want to say SeaWorld cares about their pass holders because they do a lot for them. No, it's because they need them. It's because they're suffering. They need their money. That's what pass holders are to all these major theme parks. They're a lever they can pull when they need it. And when they don't need us, they cast us aside and leave us out on the street. And that's what they're doing with Epic right now. People, Thursday they're going to sell single day tickets. Yeah, what a benefit to you. You, the annual pass holder, they're not offering you an upgrade. They're instead being like, you want to get in right away? Buy a day ticket. Or actually, but even then they're like, we're not even going to guarantee you opening day pass holders because maybe it's sold out to the people who bought packages and multi-day tickets on the 22nd. We still put you behind them. They don't care about you. You're a number. You are a number to them. Doesn't matter. Look, I'm not saying the creative people don't care. I think creative people, whether it's in Universal Creative or Walt Disney Imagineering, those people care about what they work on. There are plenty of them that care. And they're the ones that care about giving you something you love. And they fight to give you something you love within reason that they can and within the budget that the corporate, monster will allow them to have. Those people fight for you. And that's why those are the people I fight for. The other people that fight for you are the frontline cast members and team members. Because those people generally work there. They don't work there for the pay. They generally work there because they like working there. So they're like us. They care about the place, right? Not all, but most. And so those are the people we fight for at WDWNT. The people WDWNT never fights for are the executives. Executive levels very rarely. Sometimes they do good. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes they get guilted into making the right decision, or sometimes they just feel like they should. But most of the time they don't care. Most of the time it's numbers. It's bottom line, and they do what they can within the bottom line. Within the parameters of the bottom line being stronger the next quarter than it was the previous quarter. I'm going to take a sip of this now because I've talked for a long time. What else are they talking about? They're still fighting?
Are there sightline issues at the Disneyland Hotel?
At the Disneyland Hotel? Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's inarguable, but I think so much of Disneyland's tree line has grown in that kind of no. I'm trying to think of the exact view from there. I mean, obviously you see downtown Disney, but it's downtown Disney. But as far as the park, I mean, Disneyland has a lot of sightline issues from outside the park because it has to, because of the way it was built. The Indiana Jones show building is out there. I don't really know what you can do. The tram lane's right there. I'm not going to be the one that comes out and says they didn't spend enough money on the Indiana Jones adventure in 1995 because they built one of the greatest rides ever built. And it shows from inside the park, it is fully immersive. Like you see the temple and you don't see any of that giant show building. They get you out there. And same with Pirates. The magic of Pirates of the Caribbean is you think you're just going into that building. And the truth is that you splash into this underground lost world that's far beyond the park. And that's the magic of Disneyland. But I think for the most part, Disneyland Hotel sightlines still are very good. And it's far enough back from the park that they're not egregious. But you do have to understand that that's a very old hotel. And, yeah, it's not perfect. From the Grand Californian, they're very good. The Grand Californian, for a time in which they cared about very little, the Grand Californian views are very good. Does it necessarily make sense you're looking into a pier from a lodge? No, but it's still very pretty. I mean, you're not really seeing anything you're necessarily not supposed to see. But the truth, look, Disneyland maybe has to get left out of the conversation a little. We have to talk about the resorts that were built from scratch in places where there was enough land to do anything. And where Epic's being built is a fresh new plot of land. There's clearly, they were building from scratch. It was dirt. The only thing they had to work against is the road on the other side. And the hotel blocks that outside world, right? From inside the park. Look, and I'm not telling you not to build hotel rooms facing out the other way. But what I am telling you is if the hotel is in the park and it is part of the park, is that it should not break the immersion of the park. So I should not see the fake backside of Harry Potter's France from there. I should not see the unthemed backside of Super Nintendo World from there, right? That shouldn't happen. That should not happen from there. And I also think you're going to see a lot of that immersion breaking in the park. I think undoubtedly you are going to see Starfall racers from inside the Isle of Berk. There's no way. There's no way. I'll eat my shoe if it ends up not visible in that land. I will actually vlog myself in How to Train Your Dragon Isle of Berk eating a shoe if you cannot see that coaster peeking out from anywhere in that land. I think Harry Potter, the sightlines will be great because I don't think J.K. Rowling would allow otherwise. And I kind of wish the standards Universal holds themselves to in most cases with Harry Potter, I wish are the standards they held themselves to with every project they embark upon. Because then you wouldn't have Race Through New York with Jimmy Fallon and you wouldn't have Fast and the Furious Supercharged. You wouldn't have those things. You wouldn't have Rip Red Rocket either. That'd be great.
There are more attractions at Epic Universe than like 2 or 3 of the Disney parks right now.
There are more attractions at Epic Universe than 2 or 3 of the Disney parks. I don't know that that's true. I'd be happy to count that off with you right now if we want. All right, Epic Universe. I'm not counting the splash pad. So, no, you're not getting the splash pad as an attraction. You have the Carousel, Starfall Racers, Starlight Racers, legally clearable dueling coaster. Mario Kart, Yoshi, Donkey Kong. Monsters has Wolf and the Victoria Frankenstein Kuka arm ride. Potter has the show and the Ministry. Burke has the coaster, the spinning thing, the outdoor spinning ride, and the show. Am I missing something? That's the 12, right? Is there another thing in Burke? Is there that boat ride thing? Is that it? Am I missing that? So 13. Okay. There are 13 rides. 13 rides, and I'm giving you a carousel at Epic Universe. 13 attractions. Hollywood Studios, let's go. Indiana Jones, Star Tours, Muppet Vision, Vacation Fun with Mickey and Minnie, Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, Rise of the Resistance, Alien Swirling Saucers, Toy Story Mania, Slinky Dog Dash, Walt Disney Presents. What else is on that side? Mermaid's not open yet, so I won't count it. Disney Junior Play and Dance. I won't even count Launch Bay. Not even going to count it. Rock and Roller Coaster, Beauty and the Beast, Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. I've already eclipsed your thing, and I'm not counting Mermaid for next summer. I'm also not even counting Launch Bay, which technically has stuff in it, or meet and greet buildings, or any of that stuff. But we didn't count that for Epic, so it doesn't matter. But I beat you there, so you're wrong with one already. What else you want to count? You want to count Animal Kingdom? You might have Animal Kingdom. Let's see. Let's see if you have Animal Kingdom. All right. Animal Kingdom. We have It's Tough to Be a Bug. We have Navi River Journey, Flight of Passage, Kilimanjaro Safaris, Festival of the Lion King. I'll tell you what, I'll count Conservation Station as one thing with the train. I'll give you that as one. That's one attraction. I'll give you that if you want it. All right. Then we have Kali River Rapids. We have the Bird Show. We have, I'm not even going to count the trails. I should, but I won't count the trails. What else? We're in Asia. Everest. Nemo Show. Dinosaur. Triceratops Spin. And again, I'm at 12, but there's more things I could count, right? What am I missing? I'm missing something in Animal Kingdom too, aren't I? I mean, really, we should count the trails, but even so, we're still at 12. And we'll be at 13 when Tropical Americas is done. So, and again, technically, there are multiple things to do at Planet Watch, but I'll give you it's even with Animal Kingdom if you want. But again, also, like, you're holding two different standards, right? We're talking about a ride that how many of the attractions are outdoor roller coasters that are mostly unthemed? The Werewolf, Starfall Racers, the Dragon Coaster, those three rides are unthemed outdoor roller coasters. So one thing's a carousel. Like, we're acting like this is the biggest capacity lineup of all time. Do you want to count Epcot? Is Epcot one of the ones you're talking about? Just to make sure I've defeated the point thoroughly, we can do Epcot. Spaceship Earth, Turtle Talk, Nemo's Undersea Adventure, whatever the Clammobile ride is. Living with the Land, Awesome Planet, Soarin', Figment, Disney Pixar Short Films Festival, Test Track, Mission Space, Guardians of the Galaxy, Cosmic Rewind. Is that all of the front? I've almost got you beat on the front alone. I won't even count Moana. I won't even count it because I'm not counting the splash pad at Epic. Grand Fiesta Tour, Frozen Ever After, Reflections of China, Canada Far and Wide, The American Adventure, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. What am I even missing? I miss Impressions de France / Beauty and the Beast Sing-Along. Am I missing something else? No, but We're way over 13. Surprise. But yeah, look, I'm not telling you that Animal Kingdom opened with the right amount of rides, and I'm not telling you that Studios was adequately expanded in its existence. I think I've had those arguments before. But the critiques must apply to everyone, not just one of them. Like, yeah, should Animal Kingdom be adding more rides? Yeah, I certainly hope as soon as Tropical Americas is done that the next move is to add more to that park. I certainly hope so. Does Studios still need more after Monsters, Inc.? Absolutely. I think it's great that we're getting Mermaid and that coming up. Should there be more still? Yeah, there should. Should Epcot do something with the Play Pavilion / Wonders of Life? Yeah. Look, I'm not trying to tell you Disney is infallible. What I'm trying to tell you is Universal has not done anything beyond anyone, and so the narrative is false. It is a false narrative. They have not changed the industry. They have not built something new and different. It's not, the premise is not creative. It's a bunch of lands tied together by a middle section where you go through portals. It's not some revolutionary concept of a park. It is literally just pick 4 IPs and you go through tunnels to access them. You know, it's not Epcot Center in 1982. It's not Disney Sea in 2001 where it's themed to the 7 seas. We picked a strong theme in that we have ports themed to the 7 seas. You know, that makes sense. Or the Magic Kingdom, in that you have Fantasyland, Frontierland, Tomorrowland, very distinct genres represented, and it all works together very nicely. You know, I am. You know, I know we live in the age of IP, and so these IP lands, since Harry Potter came along, these are just the norm. And this is going to continue to be the norm, or these immersive IP lands. They're a blessing and a curse. Like, some of them are really amazing, and it's wonderful to step into these things you've only seen on a screen. And in some cases, they're a curse because there's no creativity, except for the fact that someone has to find a way to bring your favorite movie or video game to life. That's where the creativity comes from. But there is no, from start to finish, an idea in someone's head that is from scratch. You know, and that's in many cases a lot of the magic of what built the Disney theme parks is when you took these ideas, which, you know, it could be argued are not wholly unique. The idea of pirates or ghosts or, you know, Jungle Cruise is not even a wholly unique idea. But still original and have their own characters and stories and songs. And, you know, that was the other thing is, like, we were listening to, you know, in the car, I listened to a lot of Disney Parks music because there was a lot of unique, original, creative music created for all the Disney parks around the world. Really good stuff. And for Universal, the blessing and the curse is, yeah, they have some of the greatest movie franchises of all time, but the curse is there's no original park music. The parks have no unique identity, except that things from the movies reside in them. What makes Disney so special are, you know, the Orange Bird and Figment and Pirates of the Caribbean and the Haunted Mansion, and there are these Country Bears. There are these original characters that inhabit the Magic Kingdom, along with your childhood favorites like Peter Pan and Snow White and Pinocchio. And it's the marriage of the two that is the magic of the Magic Kingdom, I think. And Universal doesn't have that, right? And they kind of did for a minute when Islands opened, right? Like, there's some creativity there, like Poseidon, and there's some really cool, unique things that have gone by the wayside because we need to do more of this stuff.
Some people are upset you counted shows and short films.
I counted shows at Epic. I counted the Potter show and the Dragon show. If I delete the two from there, I delete the two from the other, the score is the same. Am I crazy? Why do the shows get to count for Epic and not for Hollywood Studios? Those are attractions. I counted a carousel. The carousel has more merit than the American Adventure. What's wrong with people? You know, just because you have the attention span that lasts 5 minutes and you can only deal with a roller coaster, and God forbid you had to sit and watch something for more than 8 consecutive minutes, you know. If I'm counting them for Epic, I'm counting them at the other park. Shows are shows. I didn't count the trails, which are legitimate attractions. I left those off. I lumped all of Conservation Station into one thing: a train ride, a petting zoo, an animation academy. I lumped those 3 things into one, and you still couldn't win with your point. What do you want? Oh, man. Universal has Little Boo. Yep, they sure do. They sure do. Wizarding World is a mall with a ride. I mean, they all kind of are malls with a ride. I don't think that's a fair assessment. That's kind of all of them, right? I mean, but I do want to go shopping and dining in those worlds. Honestly, the best part of Galaxy's Edge is the shopping and dining. Oh. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, it is, though. Like Main Street, when Disneyland opened, Main Street was stores. It's all stores. It still is. Yeah, the shopping is a component of it. It is a mall with attractions. That's what a theme park is. I don't have a problem with that. It's what it is. You can draw things and pet things. I mean, yeah, that's fair. I mean, there are attractions in Epic. I mean, that little kiddie shooting boat ride is not like some massive undertaking. Legoland has one. It's not new. It's an off-the-shelf thing you buy. The spinning coaster is like, the werewolf spinning coaster is like an off-the-shelf thing they bought, and they're theming it. Even if it's not off-the-shelf, it's not new. It's not a new thing. They exist. Eric just rode Time Traveler at Silver Dollar City. It exists. Like, there are things in this park that are new. Donkey Kong's a whole new thing. That's great. You know? What's the other thing? I don't know if Ministry's really a wholly new thing. It's a combination of existing things, essentially. But it'll be great. It'll be great. Don't get me wrong. There will be great things in this park. But the takeaway should be that if you're going to claim someone has caught up to someone in an industry, then the same critiques must apply. And my argument is not Animal Kingdom and Hollywood Studios are more fully finished parks. It's certainly not my point. Actually, for studios, did I even count Runaway Railway? I think I skipped Runaway Railway because I don't even think about it. So I actually didn't give studios a ride that it has. That's pretty amazing. I just skipped Runaway Railway. Oh, man. Oh, it's so good. Oh, man. Tom, what would you like to see in place of Simpsons in Springfield and Marvel Island? I mean, I think Simpsons is going to be Pokemon, and I'd love to see Pokemon. I mean, I want to see Back to the Future. That's the thing I want to see. That's begging for a land. I get it. Jaws, like, I don't think they're going to do Jaws again. I want it, but it's not going to happen. Back to the Future makes sense. There's a really fun ride vehicle in the DeLorean that's easy. People want it. But also, people would love to go around Hill Valley. Like, imagine going to Cafe 80s, like in real life. That would be amazing. I'd wait in line to eat there. Absolutely. Or going in, actually having the store where they buy the almanac. Right? It'd be super cool. I didn't count Fantasmic. Well, Fantasmic's a nighttime show, so I didn't count it. I didn't think it was fair to count Fantasmic. I counted regular daily operating attractions. I also skipped Launch Bay completely because it's at this point it's just a walkthrough and meet and greets kind of. But I skipped that. I didn't count Mermaid. Like, I counted things that are legitimate attractions. I didn't count Frozen either. I skipped the whole middle. So I 2 attractions more Studios has.
You didn't count Gertie either.
I didn't count Gertie, who was the greatest attraction of them all. Of course. Ice cream comes out of her stomach. Yeah. I'm reading comments now to see is a dead. Back to the Future is dead IP wise. Have you been in the stores at the place you're defending? Each major store has a section for Back to the Future. Do you think that's because no one cares? They just did a tribute store that's E.T., Back to the Future, and Ghostbusters and Jaws. You think those are dead IPs? Why did they build a parade float if it's a dead IP? Why is it in the nighttime show if it's a dead IP? You guys don't even know what point to make. Like, that's what I mean, is we're not making logical arguments in any case. The arguments against Disney, the arguments for Universal, none of them make sense. And they're backed with no facts. Tell me when I said something that's incorrect in this show. Tell me when there's something that's factually incorrect. And if you want to deduct the shows from Epic, I will, and I'll deduct them from studios, and you'll still have a higher count. If that's what you want, I don't think that matters. I don't think that counts. The attractions are attractions, especially in a world where people are going to really enjoy the Potter show and the Dragon show at Epic. You're deducting two of the best things that park will have from its lineup. And in many cases, you're deducting some of the most beloved things at Hollywood studios. Indiana Jones still packs a full crowd, man. Just because you go there and you don't want to see the shows doesn't mean those aren't attractions. Right? That the family, speaking of timely right now, all of Brazil is here right now. That family from Brazil that hasn't been here or hasn't been here in 5 years, they spent a full day at Hollywood Studios seeing all those shows they've never seen before. Just because you don't see the repeat value in them doesn't make them not attractions. Like, don't get me wrong, it can make you personally not like a park as much as someone else. That makes sense. Maybe I don't like Epic because I don't want to see those shows. That's valid. Does it degrade the number of attractions? Does it lessen the number of attractions? And does it lessen the amount of offerings in the park? It does not. Just because you don't want to go see entertainment acts in Animal Kingdom, it doesn't make it lesser that those two acts just came back, right? Islands of Adventure is not in the same state it was with Poseidon closed. They have lost capacity. They are down an attraction. It is a show, but they're down something. That's how that works. I got it. Uriel X 777. Hot take. Epic Universe has several micro parks with a common hub unthemed to spokes. Each spoke could be a park by themselves with more space. You could do a single IP park, but I don't think anyone's been brave enough to do it at this park outside of Peppa Pig. But that's also a very different scale, right? I don't think anyone's brave enough to do a single IP park because it doesn't appeal to everyone, right? You want to have something for everyone. Like Raleigh Crump said, Disneyland's a salad. You have something for everybody. You know, the rides are the lettuce and the entertainment is the croutons and the restaurants are the tomatoes. And it's a salad. There's something for everybody. And I think that's true of every theme park. I don't think a single IP theme park is smart. I don't want a single IP. I don't want a Marvel theme park. I don't want a Star Wars theme park. I don't think those are great ideas, if that makes sense. But yeah. The Bird Show at Animal Kingdom is actually really good. It is actually really good. It's fantastic. Just because the genre is animals doesn't make those attractions lesser than, Frozen Sing-Along or Indiana Jones or Beauty and the Beast or even a ride. Doesn't make them lesser just because someone chose creatively to do something different to make, the salad more complete, if you will, to fill Raleigh's analogy. That doesn't make them lesser just because they're different. Going to a theme park is a day of experiencing a bunch of very different things. If everything was a trackless 6-minute dark ride, if all the rides in one park were a trackless 6-minute dark ride, it becomes very stale. Right? Ask Universal what happened in the 2010s. Like, they built a lot of screen-based rides, and people got tired of them. It got to the point where people were like, oh, I don't like Universal. Everything there is a screen. They had subtle differences. There were things that were different, but they built, how many Spider-Man rides have they built now? How many Kong/Fast and Furious rides have they built now? Like, they just keep building the same things over and over. People aren't stupid. People know. And eventually it gets tiring. You need a lot of different things to round out a park. It should be a collection of very different experiences, not, every park shouldn't have 3 spinners and, a bunch of the same flat rides and a bunch of similar musical shows. Like a theme park has to be a salad. It has to be a potpourri of different experiences. Another super chat from Starscream 45 $4.99. I just can't justify paying for a 2 to 3 day park pass when I only get half day park in IOA and just an unenjoyable time in the base Universal for Epic Universe. That's fair. Totally fair. If you don't want to be sold admission to 2 parks you don't want to go to, you shouldn't buy it. Right? And this is the mistake they made in 1999. It's the mistake Disney made in 2001. Now, we won't talk about the quality of California Adventure because when it opened, it was trash. But what they did was they didn't offer it to pass holders, and it was a separate ticket. And that didn't work. People were unwilling to even dip their toe in the water before they knew it was bad. And the same thing happened with Islands of Adventure. And it's going to happen now where I think, look, these IPs are strong enough that I think people are going to dip their toe at Epic Universe. But I don't think people are going to dip their toe at the cost of having to buy tickets to the 2 parks they don't want to go to. It's a great deal if you haven't been to the other 2. That's a fun trip if you haven't been to any of them. But let's face it, I would dare say 75% or more of the people that are going to go to Epic Universe in its first year have been to the other 2 parks. I think that's a safe bet. So why would they buy that? And look, this could work out to Universal's benefit from a public appearance standpoint to where they don't sell enough of these 2 or 3 day tickets and they've now left themselves the out. By putting that little blurb at the end of that announcement saying at a later date they'll release this and this and this and this and that, they've given themselves an out. So they can pull the lever. It was smart. They can pull the lever and renege on their bad deal tomorrow if they decided sales weren't good enough. And they may very well. A couple weeks might go by and they may be like, you know what, we didn't move as many multi-day tickets or packages and things as we thought. Let's dial this back. That will probably happen. You know, the mumblings we already heard is like VIP tours. If you book a VIP tour for Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios Florida, you get to go back and forth between the 2. You apparently, as of right now, what I've heard is you won't get to go to Epic with it. It's a separate VIP tour. So despite spending thousands of dollars, doesn't work. Only get these 2 parks. Or only Epic. Mike Cervantes Mansberger, I think it's Mexico, $50. Thank you. Tom, do you think Epic Universe will get a new portal in the future? I do. I do think that. I don't know what it'll be. I wish it's Back to the Future, but it probably won't be. I don't know. I think after Epic opens, their focus probably has to be on putting Nintendo in the other 2 parks. So I think that's why you're hearing about Marvel and Simpsons. Now, do I think Zelda in Lost Continent is before Marvel? Probably. Makes sense. So I think Pokemon and Simpsons and Zelda in Lost Continent are the next 2 things after Epic. The only other thing I could see happening at Epic before a portal is I think there's a pad for the show they didn't build. They budget cut a show out of the monsters of Dark Universe. They were supposed to have a show, and that got cut out. I could see them possibly, since it's designed, greenlighting that and going forward with that for added capacity. That's what I could see being the next thing at Epic. But a portal, I think you got a little while until you see another portal. But I think the other problem is Universal's kind of out of IP. They don't really have anything cooking right now. And you can't do another Potter in that park. Another thing, could you imagine if Disney had done what they did with Harry Potter at Universal, where they built a second land, and in order to ride the Hogwarts Express, the thing that kids have dreamed about riding their whole lives, in order to ride on that, you had to buy a 2-park ticket. It was their way of making sure you still bought the other park. Disney had done that, they would have been ripped to shreds publicly. Universal got away with it. No one cared. Never mind the fact that I still think it's silly that at one of those stations you watch the train back in And at the other one, you watch it back out, which is comical. But nonetheless, if Disney had done that and the train didn't go the right direction, also I could have imagined people would have never let them hear the end of it either. But that's what I mean about double standards. That's a double standard. Hold them to the same standard. So that way when Universal succeeds, they really succeed. It's not fun to root for something just because you don't like the other team. And it's not even that you don't like the other team. You're just mad at the other team because it took you a couple years to realize that the other team was cheating you. Like when I started ranting about Bob Chapek and how bad things were going, people said I was crazy. I just wanted clicks, this and that, the things that were said to me. And then now everyone's caught up and now it's real hard to get everyone to turn the corner. And I don't blame people. Like a lot of people got burned. I get it. But you know, when things are heading in a better direction, I'm going to call it. And look, not everything is. I've said it before, maintenance and the middle of Epcot. And there are things that are still a wreck. There are lasting effects of that administration, and there's going to be for some time. But I generally feel like things are in a much better direction than they were. Are things in a better direction at Universal? Absolutely. Universal's way better than it used to be. I can't deny that. It's way better than it used to be, but it's still they still have a lot to work out. Operationally, they still have a lot of problems. Volcano Bay is still a wreck. And no one ever wants to talk about that. The water coaster still has a 7-hour line all the time. Like the capacity there's bad. And there's the expansion pad they just refused to build on. They were supposed to build like more slides immediately when that park opened, and they just didn't. They just said, forget it. And Tapu Tapu just doesn't work. It's antiquated. It's old. Get rid of it. It's junk. It was not the wave of the future. It didn't work out. Just give up on it. Now they just fly off of people's wrists and they serve very little function when you go to that park. Starscream 45, you think Universal will bring some of their collabs from around the world to the parks to make up for the lack of IP, i.e. Monster Hunter or One Piece? I mean, I think they're definitely testing the waters in Hollywood with that fan event. I think based on the flop that was Hello Kitty in Florida, I don't see anime properties being a part of Universal Orlando. Universal Hollywood in a lesser form, not really a land and maybe not even really a ride, but in some smaller form, I could see that for sure. And that's what I think they're dipping their toe in the water with this Fan Fest night thing for sure. Star Trek, it seemed like Star Trek was going to be a thing they were going to build at one point. And they didn't. That was another canceled thing. I think it was Kid Zone at one point too. It didn't happen. So I don't know if that franchise has enough legs right now. I think that's stale. Back to the Future's got some life, but we're real stale on. It's so silly to say Back to the Future's stale. There's a Broadway musical that is such a hit that it's going to a cruise line next year, and it has international tours. Stale franchise. Give me a break. But yeah, Hello Kitty failed horribly in Florida. But it's the cafe and the new store in Hollywood have been a big hit. So Kitty definitely succeeds in Japan and succeeds on the West Coast, but not in Florida. So I just don't see that. I think we've talked about Epic enough. I think for the sake of time, I am going to jump. I promised I would answer some Wigs questions from Discord, so I'm going to start doing that now. I'm going to take a sip of this, though, first. Of course, our Wigs members, you can join at patreon.com/WDWNT, and we're going to let them, usually they get early access to the show, but today they're going to get to ask some questions. Let's see what we've got here. How did meet Jason and Eric? I think we answered that on a previous podcast, Dark Sand X. We mentioned that. The episode Jason was on, I think we talked about that. And I definitely, on Eric, the show all about Eric, we talked about how Eric got involved. So I don't want to retread those stories. You can go find them. You have the power to add 5 menu items, food or beverage, back to any Disney park or resort restaurant. What are they? That's a good one. Number 1, the candy bar, the Spice Trader candy bar at Sanaa is number 1. Number 2 is the Pad Thai, the Perkins Pad Thai at Skipper Canteen. Number 3 is the Shumai at Skipper Canteen. I miss that. What else is gone that I miss a lot? Like, that's a reason I don't go to a restaurant anymore. This is a good question. I don't know. Let me know in the comments what yours are. I mean, Magic Kingdom. It's there's a whole menu I'd like to bring back. I miss the a la carte menu at Liberty Tree Tavern for lunch. The griddled bread they had. The last menu had that griddled bread. That was probably 1,000,000 calories, but damn, was that good. I think Billy was nodding. Billy agreed about the Liberty Tree Tavern.
What about the old Sleepy Hollow menu?
Oh, yeah, we lost the chicken and waffle sandwich. That'd be my 5. That's a good point. Yeah. The Sleepy Hollow chicken sandwich. Yeah. What a shame. What a shame. What are the things you genuinely enjoy at Universal Parks? Well, I think I went over, but Cabana Bay, I love Cabana Bay. I like their hotel. Sapphire Falls is great. Beautiful hotel. Love the pool there. And the pool bar is good. Bayliner Diner. Starliner Diner is at Hong Kong Disneyland. Bayliner Diner is, I ate there. We ate there 3 or 4 times last week. I love it. It's so good. So good. The churrasco, the half chicken, and the tuna from the International Station, phenomenal. Things I actually like in the parks. I like Men in Black. Spider-Man, I have to ride every time I go to that park. Velocicoaster's great. Hagrid's is great. Don't get to do them super often because it's usually a mess. I like those a lot. I like Seuss Landing. Seuss Landing's cute. A little cheapy, but cute. Dudley Do-Right. For all the wrong reasons, I love Dudley Do-Right. Anything at USF? I don't know. No, I hate the Minion stuff. Fallon, Fast and Furious. I love walking around Diagon. Again, I don't even like Harry Potter. I love doing the wand stuff and getting butterbeer and the other ice cream and watching Celestina. I like that a lot. Yeah, that park's pretty weak. It's a pretty weak theme park. But there are things I love there, just not in huge volume. I don't know what this means. VR money. In a contest to chug 2 beers and fall out of the Skyliner first, who would win, Eric, Nick, Tom, or Jason? Are we trying to fall out of it? I don't really understand. What's a typical work day and off day for you? Is it Disney 24/7 or do you have other interests? Do you wake up early and sleep late? What non-Disney TV or films do you enjoy? Wow. Okay. There is no such thing as a typical work day. So today is coming in at 10 a.m. and doing the podcast. Then I think I need to dig out the Halloween decorations for the office. And then at 6 o'clock, we're going to go film for News Tonight eating. No?
Epcot closes at 5 tonight.
Oh, today's that weird day. Oh, no. What have they done to us? What are we going to do? I assume no one can go earlier. Oh, no. Or tomorrow. You did text me. I didn't know that was in relation to today. I'm sorry. Oh. I didn't think about it. Well, that was supposed to be the rest of our day. Now the rest of my day will be figuring out either A, a different time to film this, or B, a totally new replacement segment with only 48 hours until the show on Thursday. So that's my work day today. There is no normal work day. Obviously Cake Bake could open any day now. I'm going to be called out to that at some point. We all woke up starting at 4 a.m. trying to book Epic Universe hotel and tickets today. There is no normal. There is almost no normal. Day off is probably still at a park. I don't know how to stop working. Yeah. Like last week I had some time off and we went to Universal and did Horror Nights and stuff like that. I do watch non-Disney television and films. I think I named obviously my favorite movies earlier. They're Universal movies, surprisingly. Haven't watched a lot of TV lately, but I like Only Murders in the Building, and what else have I watched the last couple of years? Last Man on Earth. Not a lot lately. I've been pretty busy lately. It's been hard to keep up with stuff. Wake up early, typically. I do occasionally get a day where I can sleep in, but I definitely go to sleep late. It's usually long after our publication day has ended to make sure nothing has happened. Guilty pleasure food, drink, or attraction at Walt Disney World. Guilty pleasure. Like, I know it's not good, but I want it. I don't know. Attraction was Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy. Like, it wasn't great, but I loved it because it was just so silly. That was my guilty pleasure attraction, I would say. I don't know what else is that I think is bad that I'll go watch for my enjoyment. Nothing really. Is she locked out? Go answer the door. Hello. Epcot closes early.
Yes.
We're in trouble. Or as ET would say, trouble.
Nick's already down here. Sabrina says she can get down here in 30 to 40 minutes. Nana says she just needs to know what time if we're meeting earlier.
Oh, then we'll just go earlier then. We did it, kids. See, you're getting to see a little bit of the anarchy of my day. That's probably better for everyone anyway.
Yeah.
I can go whenever, as soon as this is done. So whenever everyone wants to meet. Obviously, Sabrina needs time, but.
Yeah, I figured Sabrina, and because Nana's also like a 40-minute drive.
I guess just tell them, what time does Epcot close?
5 p.m.
Do you want to meet at 2:30? Give people 2 hours?
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. You get a little insight to the anarchy. I thought I was going to get to go home and shave. I'm going to eat wings. They're going to be stuck in my beard.
Your big bushy beard.
My big bushy beard. Also, working with these two weirdos, you know. Never a dull moment. Never a dull moment. Which resort gives you the most... who is this? Ask this. Quirt. Which resort gives you the most bang for your buck at Walt Disney World, in your opinion? It's hard to sometimes delineate from favorites and value. Because favorites are Wilderness Lodge and Animal Kingdom Lodge, but those probably aren't the best value necessarily. Probably the moderates. Probably I like Caribbean Beach a lot for a lot of weird reasons. Obviously, you have access to the Skyliner, which isn't my favorite thing, but it's a value. You could walk to Riviera and enjoy their facilities. You can enjoy their dining as well. You can. The fun thing is if you actually buy your resort refillable mug, there are Coke Freestyle machines in each building or near each building. So even when all the dining is closed, you could still fill a soda cup or a drink cup at any hour. The rooms are nice. The grounds are beautiful. There's a lot of space to hang out. It has the most pools of any resort at Walt Disney World. So for all those reasons, I love Caribbean Beach, and I think it's actually a really great value. If you were to get rid of 2 lands in any Walt Disney World parks, which would they be and why? Can I pick Toy Story Land twice? Tell me later. I have to finish this podcast. I don't know what's going on over there. Get rid of Toy Story. What's the news?
Cake Bake Shop adjusted their prices.
Oh, we ran it, right?
Yes, they were getting more detailed pictures.
Yeah.
Changes and things like that.
We had heard a rumor. Nana had heard a rumor that Cake Bake Shop was going to lower their prices because Disney yelled at them, and so they have. How much is the egg sandwich now?
Oh, I will check.
How much is the $23 egg sandwich now? That's great to hear. See, that's the difference. Like Disney yelling at a third-party restaurant, lower your prices. It makes me feel a little differently than I would have a couple years ago. But Toy Story Land, absolutely. I hate it. I think it's ugly, and it doesn't serve people well. It's cheapy. It feels amusement park-ish. The other land I'd get rid of. I don't know if there's another land I want to get rid of. Oh, conservation station. Like, I love animals, and it's super cool to see the, like, backstage facilities. And I love the animals at the petting zoo portion, the affection section. I love them, but it serves no real purpose. That needs to be something grander. So if I was forced to get rid of another land, if it wasn't for Everest, I'd get rid of Asia, because Asia at Animal Kingdom is Kali River Rapids. And I mean, I like Jungle Trek, I guess. It's still 23, the egg sandwich?
1999.
It's 1999.
1999 now for the egg sandwich.
It's not much better.
It's slightly better. You know what I could do with those $3? I don't know. A gallon of gas.
Well, let's check their drinks.
Anyway. Was there any other career path you studied or wanted to do, or was it always going to be Disney related? Well, I don't know if you know this, but there's no college courses related to... apparently we didn't publish it yet. Did we? Or are you just looking in the Reporter channel?
They've had it for a while.
Oh, boy.
No, Shannon's just starting writing it.
Oh, okay.
When did they send the pictures? 12/22.
Well, no one else has it yet. We're still the first to it. Uh-oh. Tell them to hurry, please, because I just said it live on the air. Please hurry. Anyway. There were no other paths to study. Like, I went to school for journalism, and I had a minor in, actually it was a minor, and then I ended up getting a second degree for political science. You could see I'm using that now. So there was no other path. This path just kind of illuminated at some point, and I decided to go with it. I don't know what's happening. When will WDWNT have its IPO so we can invest in this? We'll figure out someday VR money. Of all the rides present in Disney World, which you need thinks of restoration, why? Figment. Imagination. No doubt. I'll be in Tokyo Disney for 4 days starting Monday. What's the best sit-down restaurant to try and eat at? Purely for the atmosphere, Magellan's. Magellan's is like a must-do first trip in the fortress at Disney Sea. That's the one I would do. I don't hate the rest. They're you know, the food at Tokyo Disney is kind of mediocre, other than the snacks. GG watches, how do you store your pins? How do you display them? They're all in bags. So they're not displayed. They're just in Mickey pin bags. The black ones they've sold since the beginning. I guess they haven't sold the last couple of years. And they just sit in those. No one gets to look at them, not even me. It's a great investment. Where do you start with planning a trip to TDR? Is it simple enough to use the resort hotel websites? No, it's not, but it's what you have to do. I would start with looking when flights are in a good price range and making sure you know when the hotels are going to be available if you want to get a Disney hotel, because they will fill instantaneously there. And that's a starting point. The rest is gravy. Park tickets are easy to get. The rest is easy. You want to make sure you have affordable flights, and if your Disney hotel is important to you, you want to make sure you have that. Those are the first two things you need before you decide to go. RDM Retro, what is the one thing you miss from each Walt Disney World park? Original Journey into Imagination. What for Magic Kingdom? I miss Timekeeper at Magic Kingdom. Or that and Dream Flight. So just the Tomorrowland of like 1994 or 95 for me at Magic Kingdom. Studios, great movie ride, obviously. Animal Kingdom, I'm going to go Jammin' Jungle Parade. I missed that parade. I like that. Is there anything you feel like you missed out in Japan, or did you do everything? Yeah, Donkey Kong. It didn't open. I literally was told it might open before I got there. I got there, and then it refused to open.
Funky Kong.
Happy birthday, Rosita, said Uptown Ed. And I'll say happy birthday as well, belated.
The Super Chat Queen.
Where do you see WDWNT in 10 years? I have no idea. The blue sky thing, I was told, a good friend said to me recently, he's like, you guys should sit down and have like a blue sky. And we need to do that as a company in the not distant future because I don't know. I honestly don't know. We have to think about it. Storybook Circus at Magic Kingdom needs to be heavily revamped. Why? It serves the. They just got the smell-o-phants, she said. I think it serves its purpose. Dumbo now very rarely has a long wait. That's great. Barnstormer, it's a lot of kids. It's their first roller coaster.
The gift shop needs its carpet.
The gift shop does need its old carpet still. They still have that ugly gray carpet, replacement carpet from when they set the carpet on fire. And then Splash and Soak definitely serves a purpose. You need a splash pad in that park. It's so hot here. And then you have those very cute meet and greets in the back. I think it serves a lot of function. It serves a lot of function, serves a lot of purpose. Yeah, the questions would be here, not the live chat. But yeah, I think that we've covered a good amount of them. This is a very long show. So, did we plug Gertie on this show or just the fake out one? So real quick, I'm going to plug Santa Gertie. These are gone. The original Gerties are sold out. They're done forever. So now Santa Gertie is your last chance to own a Gertie plush probably in your life because I don't think Disney will ever make them. So go to carouselproducts.com or WDWNT.shop. Get yours now. We've sold about 700, so there's roughly 300 left, and then they're gone. They're going extinct, and then you'll never have another chance. So get them while you can. And I don't know what else. Do I have to plug anything else? I think I plugged Wigs. That's it. That's all I have to plug. We're going to go eat spicy wings now and ruin our days. So thanks for watching, everybody. Appreciate it. We'll see you next week with Eric for episode 50, and we'll see you real soon.